Well, India and Australia have finalised a uranium supply deal after years of deliberation. The agreement confirmed during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Australia. Roger Maynard covered the details for CNA from Sydney.
Relations between Australia and India have rarely been stronger, and Thursday's meeting between the country's two leaders clearly demonstrated their commitment to even closer ties in the years ahead. The most headline-grabbing development from today's talks in Melbourne was an agreement to pave the way for billions of dollars worth of uranium to be exported to India.
The arrangement facilitates Australian uranium exports to India to help increase the share of non-fossil fuel power capacity, providing an additional market for the Australian resources sector.
ऑस्ट्रेलिया से भारत को यूरेनियम सप्लाई का मार्ग खुलेगा और हमारे क्लीन एनर्जी के उद्देश्यों को नई ताकत मिलेगी। क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स में हमारा सहयोग हमारी स्ट्रेटेजिक सिक्योरिटी और क्लीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है।
To illustrate the scale of this breakthrough, it's important to note that it'll end a decade of delays to regular uranium shipments to India because of Australian fears the fuel could be used for nuclear weapons. Those reservations now appear to have been resolved, and although the fine details of the pact are yet to emerge, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese welcomed the deal to enable uranium exports to India for peaceful purposes such as nuclear energy. He also announced the pair had signed a joint declaration strengthening bilateral defence cooperation. And herein lies the underlying theme to these talks.
Australia values India as a top-tier security partner, and the declaration reflects our shared commitment to a peaceful, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific region.
हमारे मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी कोलैबोरेशन रोडमैप से इंडो पैसिफिक में हमारे साझा प्रयासों को नई ताकत मिलेगी।
There was no shortage of mutual admiration in these talks, but they have clearly paved the way to an ongoing and prosperous long-term partnership. And that's partly because Australia has such a large Indian population these days. Nearly 1 million people here have Indian heritage, and that's why Mr. Modi has got such a huge reception. Nearly 30,000 people crowding into Melbourne's Marvel Stadium for a massive welcome to the Indian Prime Minister. Roger Maynard, CNA, Sydney.
And Ishan Garg is covering this visit for CNA. He joins us live from New Delhi. Ishan, what came out of today's talks? Those are critical for India.
Well, the headline has certainly been the uranium supply deal. This is something that's been in the works for more than 10 years now. And this is crucial for India because just last year in 2025, the Indian government set itself a very ambitious target of producing 100 gigawatts of clean energy using nuclear fuel. And this comes at a time when India has been pivoting hard towards sources of energy which are non-polluting as it wants to decarbonize its industries, its power sector massively. And this is going to be hugely helpful for India, which wants to produce electricity using nuclear energy. Apart from that, the bulk of the topics that we saw being covered between the two prime ministers certainly had the Asia-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific region very much in focus. We saw we saw how the two leaders talked about a renewed focus towards shared commitments in the defense field, which certainly cover the maritime areas. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, reiterating that India's position in this regard is that it wants a free and open Indo-Pacific region where there is freedom of navigation for everybody. And he also called on Australia to serve as natural partners with India in the future. We're also seeing the joint statement that's shared by the two countries talking about how they want to bring in traditional partners like Japan and US also in this wider framework. And this call comes at a time when analysts have been seeing India playing a critical role in counterbalancing China's influence in the region.
And Roshan, of course, Mr. Modi is in Australia. Before he arrived, he was in Indonesia. Tomorrow, he leaves for New Zealand. Will there be any more deliverables we can expect between now and when he leaves tomorrow for New Zealand?
Well, the big ticket item during Prime Minister Modi's trip to New Zealand is going to be operationalizing the free trade agreement that the two countries have already signed. And this is being seen as a mark of the Indian markets, so opening up to developed countries which have been closed off, which had been closed off up until a few years ago, to a vast number of countries. Under this free trade deal, 100% of Indian exports are going to be tariff-free going into New Zealand, and more than 50% of New Zealand's imports coming into India are going to be tariff-free as well. And this is a sign, analysts say, of New Delhi showcasing that it wants to broad-base its trade strategies and it tries to reduce its reliance on trade from China, but also Washington, D.C. at the same time. Apart from that, New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has talked about how India and New Zealand can once again cooperate in the field of maritime security. And in that domain, both countries can also potentially look at intelligence sharing options as well. But he says that trade is going to be the big bedrock on which this relationship is going to be built.
All right, so that will happen, outcomes potentially in New Zealand. Thanks, Ishan Garg, for CNN Live there from New Delhi.